One.
Hello, and welcome to the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce Ontario Candidate Forum. This year, we're coming to you virtually from the boardroom at the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce, and we're so pleased to have with us today. We have Lori Borthwick from the Ontario Green Party, Amanda Robertson from the NDP Party of Ontario, Tyler Allsopp from the Ontario PC Party, and Dave O'Neill from the Ontario Liberal Party. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us. I know this has been a very quick election, and there's been a lot of door knocking and trying to get information out through the media. So hopefully this will just be one more venue where people can hear from the candidates. We are live streaming on YouTube, and it will be recorded and up there for people to come and view afterwards. So if they want to listen to you for a second time, they can find the video there. So we are going to now ask all of the candidates to start with their opening remarks. We did do a random draw prior to the start of this broadcast, and we're going to actually start with Lori from the Ontario Green Party.
Yeah.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to this, Suzanne, and the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce. I'd just like to take a moment to just say how grateful I am to be living in the Bay of Quinte riding, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat people. This riding is a beautiful jewel, and I have just been so fortunate to find myself here. It's rich with unique natural heritage areas like the Sydney Conservation Area, one of my favorites. It has a little flower there called Pipsissewa, and they look like nothing you've ever seen. They look almost like little candies. Anyway, they're amazing, and you don't find them everywhere. Also, you have the Bell Creek watershed, the limestone cliffs of Picton Harbor, the South Shore of Prince Edward County, and I am committed to preserving these important biodiversity areas. I'm grateful for the stewardship of the land over time of the traditional peoples. And as a Green, it is with this feeling of gratitude for the natural world and its inhabitants with whom we share this existence that we develop our policies. We're not just concerned with elections. Instead, we work on policies that are needed for future generations, our children and our children's children. Election cycles are short, especially under our current government. The problems we face are complex. We have seen under the last 7 years, housing prices soar, the numbers of homeless folk increase, and our public healthcare system is crumbling. As a Green, I feel politics must be done differently. I will be a community advocate and not a political spokesperson. Other politicians are going to work for their party and their leaders, but Greens work for you. I'm expected as a Green to champion local causes and speak up for the needs of our constituents. And I will do this not by shouting across the floor at Queen's Park, but through collaboration. I will work to solve the issues within the riding, and I look forward to the day when every MPP will work together to solve the problems Ontarians face. I look forward to being your voice at Queen's Park as your Green MPP, and I ask for your vote on February 27th. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Up next, we have Amanda representing the Ontario NDP Party.
Thank you, and thank you for organizing this. So my name is Amanda Robertson. I have a background in occupational therapy, and that really informs a lot of what I do and how I contribute to our community and why I'm running in this election. So occupational therapy, for people who aren't aware, their goal really is to enable people to participate in meaningful life and living. I'm also a mom of 3, a school board trustee with the public school board, a community volunteer in a local non-for-profit, and a youth basketball coach. And I'm running because I believe that every person deserves to get ahead. Life has become really hard here in Ontario and in the Bay of Quinte over the last decade. But we can do better. We can elect a rep who will bring not just our challenges, but our strengths and our homegrown solutions to Queen's Park. Bay of Quinte deserves to see our voices represented in decision-making that is happening there. It's time to prioritize everyday people who live and work here in the Bay of Quinte, and for people to have access to homes they can afford, healthcare that's there and reliable when they need it, and help with cost of living, because it really is getting very expensive out there and costly. So Bay of Quinte, it is time for better, and I would love the opportunity to represent you as your next MPP.
Thanks, Amanda. Okay, up next is Tyler from the PC Party of Ontario.
Wonderful. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you everybody out there watching, as well as to the entire Quinte West Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event today. And I'm a little under the weather today, so I'll be uncharacteristically brief. For those that don't know me, my name is Tyler Allsopp. I've been a small business owner for 12 years, a former Belleville City Councillor, as well as chair of the Police Services Board, and the former treasurer for the Enrichment Center of Mental Health. I'm also a father to 3 daughters and husband to my incredible wife, Jennifer, who is at home with those 3 girls and is without question the hardest working member of the Allsopp family. And I appreciate everything that she does for us so much. And I've been running in this campaign to keep getting things done for the Bay of Quinte. And when I came before you in the by-election, I told you that I would do 3 things: that I would hit the ground running, that I would make sure that there was no gap in leadership at Queen's Park, and that we would continue to deliver real results for you. And I can say 4 months later that we have absolutely accomplished those goals. As soon as I got to Queen's Park, and even before that, right after the election, I reached out to all the mayors and I got their priorities from them. And they were very much the same things that people told me when I came to your doors and talked to you during that by-election. And so some of those results include $20 million for County Road 49, which, as we know, has been named one of the worst roads in Canada for many, many years. That will also help unlock thousands of housing units across Prince Edward County, which we know we desperately need in order to be able to drive down the prices that we're seeing in the Prince Edward County to our south. You know, I also went right to work for the city of Belleville and surrounding area, because I knew how much the homelessness, mental health and addictions crisis was affecting our community. And what we did is, through working with the PC government and Premier Ford, we were able to launch the Heart Hub program, which was originally scheduled to be 19 hubs built out across Ontario for $378 million. But because of the immense need, we've expanded that program to 27 hubs across Ontario for $529 million. And we have one of those hubs coming to Belleville, Ontario, which will be a regional hub that will allow people who are struggling to get their lives back, get back on their feet and back to contributing to society. I'm very much looking forward to seeing those people turn their lives around. And then for our friends in Quinte West, we knew how important it was to get the urbanization of 2nd Doug Hill Road and Highway 2 done. That's an $11 million project, the largest infrastructure investment in the history of Quinte West. And that will also help unlock thousands of homes along that corridor, as well as making sure that the road is much safer for residents in the future. So we've delivered some results already in my first 100 days, and I'm looking very much forward to getting back to Queen's Park and delivering results for you and to continue getting it done for the Bay of Quinte. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tyler. And then now we're going to go to Dave O'Neill, who is representing the Ontario Liberal Party.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm David O'Neill, your Liberal MPP candidate for the Bay of Quinte riding. I'm pleased to be with all of you today and would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event. Thank you for taking the time to come together as we discuss the future of the region and of our province. These are challenging times, and the issues and services that we face impact all of us. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm surrounded by 5 strong women. I'm married to Teresa, have 3 beautiful daughters, and my mom, Donna. I also have 4-year-old twin grandsons who are already circled around me and give me multiple reasons to build a stronger future for everyone. My municipal background includes 6 years on Quinte West Council and has given me insight into local and provincial concerns, and the opportunity to serve on over 12 committees reflecting on healthcare, economic development, and quality of life programs. I have a grassroots understanding of what needs to be done and will work for everyone, regardless of the political partisanship. Currently, I own and operate O'Neill Developments, a company involved in the leasing of various commercial properties. I'm a chartered professional accountant, and for over 20 years owned and operated an accounting business in Quinte. My professional experience has given me an appreciation of the financial challenges small business and families face. My father Hugh represented this area for 20 years. As a Queen's Park, as MPP and a cabinet minister. Dad was known as Mr. Quinte. He served with integrity, dedication, and compassion. Characteristics which will guide my campaign and potential time in office. I have fond memories of going to many community events with mom and dad, the Quinte exhibition, numerous Santa Claus parades, and summer festivals. I know how hard my parents work for the people, and I will deliver that too. It's in my genes. You can count on me, David O'Neill, to get things done in the Bay of Quinte area. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we've heard from all four of the candidates. It's time to put them in the hot seat a little bit. We have quite a few questions that were submitted from the general public. Some of them came from the business community. Some of them came from my government affairs committee and were based on issues that the Ontario Chamber of Commerce have been lobbying hard on, making sure that we have a prosperous Ontario. And the first section that we're going to go through is about economic disruption. And I think we can all agree that this is something that has been top of mind. It's hard for it not to be with constant threats coming to us from our US neighbors. This week, there has been a report released by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce Business Data Labs, which has surprisingly for a lot of people put the Belleville Quinte West CMA as the 11th most vulnerable community in Canada for the tariffs. I think people know, a lot of our manufacturers here in Quinte West and Belleville are big exporters to the US. And in fact, those exports to the US make up 27% of our local GDP, which is a big number. And so the tariffs are not going to just affect the big centers that we think. This area is rich in manufacturing, and the tariffs have the ability to cause, a lot of pain for our local families. And so I think this is it's hard, but this is a good way to start our discussion today. So I'm going to actually get Amanda to answer this one first, and then we'll see who wants to go next. So a 25% tariff on Canadian exports would increase costs for Ontario manufacturers, reduce competitiveness, and potentially lead to job losses. The Belleville Quinte West CMA is listed as the 11th most vulnerable across Canada. If elected, what would you do to help Quinte manufacturers deal with the tariffs and the trade uncertainty?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So the NDP actually have a plan to tariff-proof Ontario, included in our platform. Items on that plan include creating Premier's Council on the Economy, which would include business members, labor members, civil society, and municipal leaders, so that we can coordinate a strong economic response. We would be directing Ontario government-funded agencies to procure locally, working with our trade-exposed industry, so many here in Bay of Quinte, to create new supply chains and maintain those new supply chains. We would be negotiating a federal provincial income assistance to support people whose livelihood will be impacted by tariffs, because we know that there will always be livelihoods impacted when this type of tariff is imposed. We would be investing in retraining opportunities in skilled trades, investing in post-secondary opportunities for retraining, and accelerating infrastructure projects, working with our municipalities to see what is ready to go so that we can keep people working. As for the interprovincial trade barriers, we have a government for 7 years who's neglected cooperative relationship building, and in this moment believes that Premier Ford and Ford alone is the best protection for us. But as your rep, I'd be joining a leadership team that values collaboration with all levels of government and all stakeholders, and understands that creative solutions to complex problems requires all voices to make it to the table. And I would use that approach to break down, or we would use that approach to break down interprovincial trade barriers, but also to best understand how the tariffs are impacting directly here. So making sure that the right people, right voices were at the table, at the decision-making table.
Very good. We're gonna go to you next, Tyler. So I asked about the tariffs and Amanda also answered on the international trade barriers, which interprovincial, which is fine because they are connected. So, and so we were just, looking at, if elected, what would you do to remove those interprovincial trade barriers? That it requires government cooperation, regulatory harmonization, and industry-driven advocacy. So if elected, what would you do to ensure there's a free flow of people and products across provincial borders? So you may as well go ahead, Tyler, you have the floor to answer sort of both of those because they are very closely connected, I think.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Suzanne. And we know that this would have a tremendous effect on the entire Ontario economy. We're talking about 450,000 jobs across Ontario that could be affected. Just the steel and aluminum tariffs that were announced the other day, 35,000 jobs across Quebec and Ontario. So all of these tariffs are highly impactful. And as you mentioned, the CMA shows that the particular CMA is the 11th most vulnerable because of the exportation that we do to the United States through our burgeoning manufacturing sector. So we've created a plan to make sure that we are not tariff proofing, but responding to tariffs in an appropriate way. So we're putting up $10 billion in cash flow support for Ontario businesses, $3 billion in payroll tax and premium relief. We've also brought forward $120 million to support approximately 18,000 bars and restaurants by decreasing the wholesale cost of LCBO products, which will help them keep more cash flow available in their business. We're looking at investing $40 million for a trade impacted communities program, which would very much be applicable to our community and certainly something I would be advocating for our community at Queen's Park, as well as $300 million to expand the Ontario-made manufacturing tax credit, all of which I think will be very important to us as we move forward through a very uncertain period. And this plan has been endorsed by Dan Kelly, the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. So we know that the business community is on board with us and understands that we know what it takes in order to deliver the relief they need and to support a strong Ontario economy. As it relates to the second part of the question, the interprovincial barriers, this is something that all the premiers across Canada are aligned on. It's something that we've taught us up to $200 billion more economic activity every year in Canada. But we know that it's not as easy as simply, a stroke of a pen. A lot of it is regulatory differences amongst the provinces, including language laws from Quebec, language laws in Quebec, as well as things like snow tires on transport trucks. So there's a lot of steps that would be required, but we're absolutely committed to doing what needs to be done to open up those barriers and make our products more accessible across Canada.
Very good, excellent. Next, Dave, you can answer it as two separate questions if you'd want, or you can combine it into one answer. Asking about what would you do if elected to help Quinte manufacturers deal with the tariffs and the trade uncertainty? And then the second part is, if elected, what would you do to ensure there was a free flow of people and products across provincial borders?
I'll answer the same as the other two.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm a board member of the Bay of Quinte Economic Development Commission. So I have background knowledge of the items being discussed and how important this is to our Bay of Quinte area. With recent tariffs causing a stir, I feel there's never been a better time to support Canadian-made products. A buy local campaign emphasizing the power of buying and shopping local. Development of an app for consumers to utilize buying Canadian products would be promoted. On store shelves, Canadian products should be highlighted for the consumer. Our party plans to establish a Fight Tariffs Fund, which will provide businesses with access to cheaper interest rate for operational costs or capital investments to help keep workers or hire new ones as they grow. We need to tear down provincial trade barriers and make sure Trump's buddies like Elon Musk aren't getting richer off Ontario procurement contracts. Thank you.
And did you answer about the interprovincial barriers?
That was my last.
Okay,
comment.
very good, sorry. Next, we're going to go to Lori on that. Would you like me to repeat the questions?
No, I
Okay.
think I have the gist.
Okay.
And it's so exciting. I just want to build again on the fact that we need collaboration in the face of this threat. And I'm so excited to see that everybody here realizes that we need to support our businesses. We all have different names for our funds, but we all have funds that we are going to put, just like we did in the pandemic, to support businesses. And my hope is that we will remember to support small businesses, because in the pandemic, I think they got left behind initially, especially when people could go to the big box stores which actually were more dangerous than the small stores. So we do want to remember that small businesses are the drivers of the economy in Ontario and in the Bay of Quinte. So we also would create a terrorist task force, although we will also, beyond having stakeholders, we will be inviting it to be an all-party task force. So I hope that the other parties would consider that as well. An investment Ontario tax credit to support people wanting to, sorry, got distracted with that, but that's okay. So to support people who want to invest in Ontario and keep the money at home, Buy Ontario, make sure that everyone goes into the store can see that there's a Buy Ontario packaging, make it clear, and the Protect Ontario Fund to support those businesses. And after listening to the news reports from our little task force that went over to talk to Trump's compatriots, I guess. I think that we have to diverse our trade partners as quickly as possible. I don't think negotiations are going to be terribly successful. Thanks.
Great, wonderful. Everybody had a chance to answer that question. So now we're going to move on to healthcare, which is another big topic in our region, and I would say probably across the province as well. And Tyler, I'm going to have you answer this question first. Ontario faces a critical shortage of healthcare professionals, which impacts both patient care and business productivity. What plans do you have to help alleviate this shortage? Do you support the streamlining of credential recognition for internationally trained professionals?
Well, thank you very much, Suzanne. We know that the doctor recruitment challenge and the shortage that we've had in healthcare has been a pre-existing issue for quite a long time. It was first addressed in this area in 2006 by Neil Ellis during the Dalton McGuinty government with the doctor recruitment program. And we've seen in Bell, they've been very successful at doing that. But we know that we need to do more, and we've increased healthcare spending. When it came into office, it was at $57 billion. It's now at over $85 billion, a 50% increase in 6 years. We've also planned to build 2 new medical schools. We've increased the number of residency seats by 700 and earmarked 60% of those for family doctors, as well as prioritizing all the spots in our Ontario medical schools for Ontario-based students. That way, they're much more likely to stay in community after having been educated and work in the clinics that we need. We've also done the Ontario Learn to Stay grant. So for doctors that are willing to practice in underserved communities, we will help pay the cost of their medical schooling, about $25,000 a year for 6 years, which goes a long way to ensuring that doctors come to, quite honestly, areas that are more rural, like Frankfurt. I was up there not long ago. They said they used to have 3 doctors, now they don't have any. That would be a priority for me to help recruit new doctors to come to that area as well. We've also had to get innovative to make sure that we're, getting more people treated. You look at what we've done with pharmacies. 99% of pharmacies are now able to treat some of the most common ailments that affect people. And so that has kept over 400,000 people out of hospital waiting rooms. It's also treated almost 2 million patients so far. And you look at the work that we've done on private clinics where people are able to go in, get very quick service from reliable professionals, and always pay with their OHIP card, not their credit card. So it's not a privatization. It's allowing people to work outside the system, but still paid for by OHIP as well. So I think that these things in aggregate will make a huge difference to our healthcare. And we know that locally the wait times in Belleville General Hospital particularly are quite high. I've been having constant contact with Stacey Dobb, the CEO, and we know that we need about 5 new doctors in the emergency room there. I'm going to be going back to Queen's Park, hopefully very soon, and advocating to get those doctors in the community, cut those wait times back down under the provincial average.
Wonderful, thank you. Now you didn't touch on the foreign credentials or the streamlining of credentials.
Yes.
Did you want to?
We were the first province to introduce as of right rules to allow doctors who are trained in other provinces to practice in Ontario immediately, and we would absolutely streamline foreign credentials.
Wonderful. Next, we're going to go to you, Dave. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you for the other one.
Yeah.
Thanks. 28,000 people in our riding and 2.5 million people in Ontario do not have access to primary care. Our plan is to get every person in Ontario a family doctor within 4 years by creating 2 new medical schools and expand existing medical schools. I think that's great that the Conservative plan to create 2 new medical schools matches with ours. Thank you. I do support the streamlining of credential recognition for internationally trained professionals. Promote, deliver team-based professional care, giving weekend support, integrated care, home care for seniors, incentivize family doctors to serve in rural and northern communities. Trenton Memorial Hospital needs a dialysis unit. This is one of the investments needed in our region, and we have the numbers to support this. I've been involved with that committee, and we need to get that. Instead of having to drive all the way to Kingston in bad weather, or if someone has to take them to Kingston, they have to wait around. If it was in Trenton, and there should be one in Trenton, we could drop them off and pick them up, and it would be so much easier on all the people. 1 minute, thanks. Ford's $200 election giveaway costs Ontario taxpayers $3 billion. It could have been better used for additional funding for healthcare or educational programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Next, we're gonna go to Lori.
Oh, okay, wonderful, thank you. Well, I, as a longtime healthcare worker, I will say that I have never seen things to be a mess like they are right now. But they have been getting messy for a long time. It didn't just happen overnight, that's for sure. But right now, our emerge departments are overwhelmed by people who are unattached patients. There is over 26,000 unattached patients in our riding. And I've talked to them. I think we've all talked to them. They're struggling. And we don't have any very few in-person options for people other than the emergency departments. People are struggling to access the pharmacists as helpers. If you don't already deal with that pharmacy, they are unlikely to take you, and quite often you have to book, and your booking is like a week and a half away, but you have a tick bite today. So there are some big issues, and the thing that annoys me as well is that the pharmacists are paid $75 for that service per service, and our family doctors are only paid $37.95 for the same service. And healthcare is not just about doctors. I appreciate the increased, medical school placements, but we also need RNs. We need to increase school and funding for RNs. We need nurse practitioners. We need a whole team. We need PSWs. We think we need 6,800 PSWs by 2028. And when the Premier brought in Bill 124, RNs fled from healthcare because they felt unappreciated. They were not allowed to bargain. And if you want people to work in healthcare, you need to have them supported, and they need to feel that the job is a job that they would want to have. And I think we can do all of that, and we do have a plan for that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lori. Amanda, and now you have 2 minutes to answer the same question.
Sure. So like Lori said, this crisis hasn't just came up overnight. When the Liberals left power, there was over 1 million patients that were already without a family doctor. Some may say that they invented hallway healthcare, but it certainly has now become hallway healthcare, emergency room hallway, administrative office healthcare. Basically, wherever you can fit a hospital bed or stretcher, people are being cared for in really desperate situations. The reality is, investing to fix healthcare, it's going to take more than just graduating more healthcare providers, whether that's doctors or nurses. It's definitely part of the puzzle, and the creation of new primary care teams. So an Ontario NDP government would invest in creating 380 new primary care teams, which would include allied health professionals like social workers, nurses, physios, occupational therapists, dietitians, so that we can take some of the burden off of our frontline primary care providers. The reality is, until we start improving the working conditions for healthcare professionals, we're going to be bleeding out more than we can ever graduate. So we are losing a lot of family doctors and nurses to early retirement because the situation is quite dire. But the reality is, OMA, the Nurses Association, they know what they need, and they've been very vocal about what it is they need. They need a provincial partner to come to the table to fund some of the solutions that they know will work. So an NDP government would be partnering with our partners in healthcare to determine how to better improve working conditions, so that we can make sure we have people available to train our new doctors, our new nurses, because they're the ones who are responsible for training this next generation. And when you have burnt out staff trying to train new staff, the new staff don't stick around too long. So I think it is a complex problem that requires us to look within the system and make sure that we are valuing the healthcare workers that are working in it to an appropriate extent.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next question, we're going to stick with the healthcare theme as it is an important one. And Dave, I'm going to get you to answer this question first. Ontario must invest in innovative solutions to enhance healthcare delivery, reduce wait times, and address workforce shortages to support businesses and communities. Where do you see the money coming from to make the types of investments needed in our region?
Thank you. Ontario's economic success relies on healthy and sustainable communities. Ontario must work with businesses to address the impact of substance abuse crisis. We need to take a whole of government approach to addressing mental health and substance abuse challenges for Ontario businesses, community, and workforce, involve people with experience in the design and delivery of mental health and substance use tools, supports, accelerate the development of an integrated health data system with a focus on data and transparency to ensure Ontarians can access appropriate care at the right time.
Okay. And next I'm going to go to Lori. If elected, where do you see the money coming from? Where does the Green Party see the money coming from to make the types of investments needed in our region for healthcare?
Well, I always say money in government can be found when you want to find it. We found $3.2 billion to give everyone a $200 check just pre-election. And we debt funded that, so it's going to cost a lot more than $3.2 billion. We have found $650 million to roll out alcohol and break the beer store contract a bit early, so that would happen pre-election. And the cost to rolling out alcohol to private, on routes and things like that is estimated to be over $1 billion. We spent $2.2 billion renovating Ontario Place for Therme Luxury Spa. So there is money there. And $7 billion is the Ontario Electric subsidy for people across Ontario. And while I don't discount that people who are struggling should have a hydro subsidy, I certainly wonder why people who have large homes like Galen Weston would need that. So there is lots of money, not to mention the cost of building the 413, which I don't know if we need that particular highway. It seems to be something that's going out to cottage country and through some very sensitive lands, doing, improve people's commute by 1 minute maybe or less. So there's money there. We need to prioritize healthcare. When you ask people what is their most important issue, they don't say, well, I wish I could shave 5 seconds off of my drive time. They say healthcare, housing, and affordability.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lori. Amanda, the same question to you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
So where we would find money is, as Lori's alluded to, we've got over $5 billion that has been demonstrating, that has been found by this current government that in many opinions has demonstrated poor judgment and poor stewardship of the Ontario tax dollars. But in addition to that, we have a Ford government that's increased funding to for-profit hospitals. So for example, the Clearpoint Medical Group and their Don Mill surgical unit has been given 278% more funding over the between the years of 2017 and 2022. So this is a facility, a private for-profit facility that is charging double for cataract and knee surgeries than we're seeing in our private system. So as Ontario taxpayers, we're paying $4,000 for a knee where it would be $1,600 in the public sector. And for cataracts, we're paying $1,264 where it would be $508 in the public system. So the reality is the dollars are there. We bring in over $200 billion in tax dollars every year. It's more about prioritizing where we're directing that money and really stopping the wasteful spending and the irresponsible spending of Ontario tax dollars.
Thank you. Tyler, you're up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm just trying to decide if I should use my time to answer or rebuttal. There's a lot that came out there, so.
You have 2 minutes.
I've been writing feverishly here.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about some of the innovative practices that we're doing. We didn't touch on the community paramedicine program, which has been hugely helpful for older people who wanted to continue to live in their homes and may not require to be in a long-term care home yet. We also have the community long-term care project, so that people who are living in the community while they're on the wait list for long-term care can access some long-term care programs and procedures while they're still living in their home. I want to touch on a couple things. So we put forward $1.8 billion in our new plan to get a family doctor or a nurse practitioner or a primary healthcare professional for everybody in Ontario. I also want to take a look at $4.9 billion is what we put up to hire 27,000 new PSWs. Since 2018, we've hired 15,000 new doctors. We've also hired 100,000 new nurses. So we're very much aware of the staffing challenges. We put the funds forward to build out all the professionals that we will need to staff the hospitals. The 2 medical schools that Dave touched on in Bonnie's plan are the 2 that we're already building. Easy promise for to make since we've already started. Also, the get it done slogan is the conservative slogan. It has once again been appropriated by one of my liberal competitors. What else do I have here? The bus that Bonnie is riding around in that says 11,000 people died waiting for surgery. Provable lie, proven to be false, not changed. The 13% subsidy for the energy rates is something that does help keep energy much more affordable for people. We know that a lot of people struggle with the price of their bills. We think that that's an important thing to be doing to help keep costs low around the province. We talked about the private clinics paid for by OHIP, not credit card. So we're very much invested in the current public system. As I said, we've increased the funding by 50% since 2018. We spend 42.5% of our budget on healthcare, and we spend more on healthcare than every other province and territory combined, if you exclude Quebec.
Okay, thank you. You have a rebuttal?
I'm 2 minutes,
Okay.
very quick.
That's okay. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Tyler, I really appreciate that you're putting 1.2 billion into attaching people to family doctors, but you just spent 1.8. You just spent 3.2 billion on an pre-election gimmick to buy this election. Not you personally, I understand, but there's places to put your money, and I would have preferred, it'd be 3.2, 1.865 billion dollars to go into healthcare. What could we have done with that?
Can you do a rebuttal to a rebuttal?
To
I can provide clarity on the check.
Make it brief.
Yeah, so the check was a taxpayer rebate because we actually got more revenue than we had projected in the budget. So we outperformed our revenue expectation by $6 billion. We gave half of that back to Ontario taxpayers because we recognize it is their money, and ultimately all the money that we have comes from them. So we did not increase our debt or our deficit. We took $6 billion, we put $3 billion to cut down the deficit, and then we put the other $3 billion back in the pockets of the people who gave us the money in the first place.
You want to?
I just, yeah.
Okay, Amanda
Yeah,
and Dave.
yeah.
So,
I just wanted to touch on the for-profit hospitals. So while it's OHIP paid for, so yes, you're not paying with your credit card, well, in some cases maybe you are, but taxpayers are paying that premium. So the province of Ontario through OHIP is paying more than double for these procedures. So it's costing us as taxpayers more than double. So that does eat into what services we can offer. So while it may not always be a credit card swipe, you're paying for it, I'm paying for it 2, sometimes 3 times over.
And Dave, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Read the comment, get it done. Copy is a form of compliment. It's a great skill.
Thank you.
I'll try not to use it so much in the future.
That's okay.
All right. We are now going to move on to our next section is on mental health and addictions, which is something that we know has become a big issue in our region. And Lori, I'm going to actually have you answer this question first. And so the mental health crisis is affecting workplaces across Ontario, impacting employee productivity and business success. If elected to government, what would your party do to deal with the mental health and addiction crisis?
Well, thanks for that question. That was something that we came out with quite a while ago as a meeting, that mental health should be completely OHIP funded. We need more care and more base funding. And we need to also ensure we keep retention of our workers, both our doctors and our support services, social workers, and in recruit as well. I live on Victoria between John and George, 1 block from the Grayson shelter, 1 block from the Bridge Street outreach. And I see this every day, and it doesn't just affect, it does affect businesses, obviously, but it affects everyone. You can't go by there without just feeling like in your heart, you know it's wrong. And it was over a year ago that there was a state of emergency declared, and yet we didn't see an emergency response. And I think as someone who just wonders, I understand it was a municipal and provincial and federal issue, but at the same time, we have space. We could have put every single unhoused person in our riding into Quinte Secondary School. We could have set up cots, we could have set up kitchens, we could have put staff there. That's an emergency response. And it just saddens me that we seem to be moving so slowly on this such important issue.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, I'm going to have you answer that question next.
Sure. So the biggest part of addressing mental health crisis is really refocusing our government priorities on everyday people. So we know that stress and uncertainty and poverty are all strongly correlated with poor mental health. And also poor mental health is strongly correlated with addictions. So really lifting up people by investing in affordable housing, bringing down the cost of food. We have announced a grocery rebate that the NDP would put into place. We would increase funding to community mental health service providers. And for those who are struggling with addiction, we would be increasing funded detox beds and also increasing OHIP funded residential treatment beds, because the reality is there are very few province-wide that are actually funded. So unless you have $30,000 to go to an inpatient rehab, it's out of the question for most folks. Also, we would be allowing frontline agencies to access all the mental health tools in their tool belt. So that would include harm reduction models of care and other evidence-based addictions treatments.
Wonderful, thank you. Tyler, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think you've got it. It's a very important question and one that matters a great deal to me. As someone who has struggled with mental health myself, it was the reason that I left college.
Yeah.
And it's the reason that I joined the Enrichment Center for Mental Health as their treasurer, to make sure that we can make progress on this issue. And one of the things that really drew me to this party and my support of this government is the work that they have been doing on mental health. They put forward the $3.8 billion roadmap to wellness, which is providing mental health supports all across Ontario. We've increased the amount of mental health funding for schools by 500%. And made it a year-long program so students can access it in the summer as well. As I mentioned in my introduction, we created the Hard Hub model, which is the homelessness, addiction, recovery, and treatment centers, which come with supportive housing units, because we know we need a housing first solution, because you really can't help people stabilize their lives, increase their, decrease their dependence on drugs, and improve their mental health if they don't have housing as well. It's very hard for them to do that if they're still living on the street. So the $19 million commitment that we secured for Belleville will include 21 supportive housing units, because we know that that's incredibly important. We also created the Associate Minister of Mental Health portfolio in 2019.
1 minute.
Thank you very much. It's hard to check over your shoulder.
I'm looking for one of these.
In 2019, of course, signaling our government's commitment to the mental health file, and we'll continue to push forward on that. The other thing that we've done, which I think is really important, is when you talk about challenges that police officers have dealing with their own mental health, but also the mental health of some of the people they're interacting with. We know that that can cause a lot of unfortunate situations to arise, which is why we've provided funding for impact teams, embedding mental health professionals inside police services. The Quinte West OPP just received $120,000 for that program. And when coupled with things like body cameras, it allows officers in the field to connect with mental health professionals in the office to make sure they're giving the best possible treatment to people who are out on the street.
Okay, thank you so much. And Dave, same question.
Was my first one the original?
The mental health?
No, it was Lori. Sorry, so it's it's one on mental health. So if elected to
Okay.
government, what would your party do to deal with the mental health and addiction crisis?
Ontario's economic success relies on healthy and sustainable communities. As Amanda said, poor mental health is associated with addictions. Ontario must work with the businesses to address the impact of substance abuse crisis. We need to take a whole of government approach to addressing mental health and substance abuse challenges for Ontario's businesses. Community and workforce involve people with experience in the design and delivery of the mental health and substance use tools and supports. Accelerate the development of integrated health data system with a focus on data and transparency to ensure Ontarians can access appropriate care at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead, Lori, you have 1 minute.
I just want to highlight, and I understand everyone here cares about this issue, but I really hope that we all push, because people are dying on the street like every day. And it's not okay. It's so sometimes, you know, I see we're reading our points that people have worked on, but I just want people to know it's real. So if you know, we need to advocate, not just within our parties, that it's real and they need to move forward, not just, you know, make some ideas and think about it. But you know, there was a fellow that I'd met and he passed away just last week, and that's just not okay.
Amanda, you had a rebuttal?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the Heart Hub model too, and just really advocate for all types of mental health models to be included in that care, because as of right now with the Heart Hub model, the funding is limited to non-harm reduction care. And a lot of the agencies that are involved in our local Bridge Integrated Care Hub do engage in harm reduction models of care, and they are really concerned about their ability to help people to the full extent when we know that the evidence supports harm reduction as part of a complete model of care for people with addictions and mental health.
Okay. And Dave, you have something you want to comment on?
I'll just add, I think the Babel Health Hub is a great initiative for our area. Thank you.
Definitely a serious issue, and I know one that touches so many of our families in the region. We're now going to go into a little bit of a rapid fire section in that I'm just going to ask these questions which are focused around business and economic development. It's going to be one question to each to one candidate. If somebody else would like to add something to that, they're welcome to just indicate. So the first one is going to go to you, Dave. What specific policies does your party have to support small and medium-sized businesses in Ontario, particularly in reducing red tape and financial barriers?
Thank you. For small business, we plan to cut the small business tax rate by half from the current 3.25% to 1.6%. Increase the threshold from 500,000 to 600,000 for more businesses to qualify, saving as much as 18,000 per year for 275,000 of Ontario's 450,000 small businesses. Our party must commit to make it easier for local businesses to bid on government contracts, especially in the face of the Trump tariff.
Okay. Next question is to you, Lori. This one's around workforce development. Many businesses are struggling to find skilled workers. What is your plan to address labor shortages, especially in the trades and service industries?
Yes, well, thank you for that question, because you know, with what's happening currently at Loyalist College, where they're having to cut 30% of their programs that they're offering, and some of those I believe are in the trades programs. We can see that we really need to begin by starting to fund at a higher rate our post-secondary, not just our universities, but our colleges, our community colleges. And the amazing part about community colleges when they came out was that they were in the community, so you don't have to travel to learn the things that you need to get a good job in your community. And that saves you so much money over time. So we would increase per student funding by 20% immediately. We would reverse the cuts to Allsopp that were made in 2018 under Doug Ford. We would replace performance-based funding model to enrollment-based funding, which would be more stable. and modernize incentives for part-time enrollment students so that they can do that. But in addition, we have a program because we believe that as we transition to a greener economy, there will be a lot of jobs in retrofitting buildings and housing to make them more energy efficient. So we want to give 60,000 people in Ontario the skills to work in that green economy. A year of free college tuition plus a year-long apprenticeship when they graduate. And we want to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs by retrofitting 40% of existing homes and by 2035. So we definitely need to get those community colleges up and going.
Okay. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Loyalist College has a program called Elevate Plus, and it's supported by the Conservative government. I think it's great. What it does is it helps workers, trains them with new skills, or helps them upgrade their skills they have to get them a better paying job. And I just think that's a great program, and we need to keep that program, and it's been funded and it's proven to work.
Anybody else okay?
I'll just do a quick one.
Okay.
Very supportive of the comments that have been made. And the first question regarding reducing red tape, that's been a focus of our government. We've reduced about $8 billion worth of red tape since 2018, so we're very proud of that. And then just to touch on what Dave and Lori had said about the Skills Development Fund, we put up $1.5 billion to help re-educate 600,000 workers and retrain them. And that program, Elevate Plus, is absolutely incredible. When you go to those graduations, you can see how much it means to people to be able to get reskilled, to be earning more money for their families. And often they've had contact with the justice system, mental health issues, things of that nature. And it means a lot to them to be able to get back out in the workforce and do a better job supporting their families.
Yeah, go ahead.
And just to add to, an NDP government would invest in post-secondary and skilled trades pathways to ensure that we have a good, well-trained workforce and our students have great pathways forward. We would also be introducing a $10 a day daycare, because I know in a lot of these industries, especially in the service industry, sometimes a lack of affordable daycare can be a big barrier to people being able to enter or stay in the workforce. So that is something that we've committed to delivering on for people in our
So the next question is around taxation and incentives, and Amanda, this one is to you. Will your party introduce or maintain any tax incentives for businesses? And how do you plan to balance corporate taxation with economic growth?
Yeah, so the NDP is committed to working directly with businesses to determine what is working and what may need revamping. And we would obviously want to continue what is working. The reality is a healthy economy is only possible if everyday folks are supported and thriving. So things like delivering on $10 a day childcare, our monthly caregiver benefit for those who are caring for loved ones at home. We know we've heard from a lot of small business owners that have had to have limited hours or shortened hours because they're balancing caregiving responsibilities with having their business open. So things like this are important also because while they're not directly taxation incentives, it's really hard for small business and medium-sized businesses to thrive when their workforce isn't supported and when they as business owners are not supported.
Okay. And Tyler, the last question in this section is to you around government procurement. Will your party commit to making it easier for local businesses to bid on government contracts, ensuring taxpayer dollars benefit Ontario companies?
Absolutely, we will. And this is something I've been talking with Chris Auger about at the Belleville Chamber of Commerce. The importance of making sure that small and medium-sized Ontario businesses have more opportunities to bid on government contracts. And in many cases, they can deliver the same level of product at a much cheaper rate than some of the more established suppliers. And so that's not only good for the government because we're able to put more money into other resources, but also good for those businesses who are able to secure those contracts. We spend about $30 billion a year on procurement through Supply Ontario. We would look at focusing all of that money towards Ontario and certainly Canadian-made products, especially in the wake of these tariff and trade wars that we're seeing. The other major thing is that we have a $200 billion plan for infrastructure, which includes public transit, road networks, hospitals, long-term care homes, and many other things. We're also looking at making sure that the procurement processes for that infrastructure development is focused on Canadian businesses and Ontario small businesses as well. So all the wood, the steel, the cement, the aggregates, all the things that go into building that infrastructure, More of that we can source domestically, and particularly here in Ontario, is only going to benefit our economy, and we're committed to doing that.
Very good. We are almost coming up to 5 o'clock, hard to believe, so I'm gonna try and speed things up a little bit. And we'll try and get through as many questions as we can.
Time flies when you're having
It
fun.
certainly does. So maybe we'll try and limit our answers to maybe a minute if we can. This next one is important and it's been touched on already, but it's around housing affordability. Tyler, I'm gonna get you to answer first, but how does your party plan to address the rising cost of housing, particularly in smaller communities where supply is limited?
Yeah, so we'll endeavor to be brief. So we have a plan to build 1.5 million new homes by 2031. We know that those targets have been hard to hit because of economic headwinds, as well as too much red tape, overtaxation of the sector. So we're going to work to make sure that we reduce red tape, speed up approval times through the use of advanced AI softwares. So instead of taking 6 weeks to get an approval, we can have that done in 6 minutes. It works in advanced manufacturing, it works in aerospace, it will work in planning as well. We know that the supply needs to increase in order to be able to bring the cost down. We've also changed the provincial policy statement as well, to be able to build more modular homes and more tiny homes for people. Because often, young single people or maybe people with only one child don't need to be living in 1,500, 2,000 square foot houses. Something more in that 500 to 700 square foot range would be much more appropriate. And that is now allowable through the provincial policy statement.
Very good. Dave, same question to you. What would you do what would your party do to address the rising cost of housing?
Thank you. Taxes on new houses like development charges now account for 36% of the price of a new home in Ontario. Our party plans to scrap development charges on new housing units under 3,000 square feet and replace lost municipal revenue. Our party plans to eliminate provincial land transfer tax for nonprofit home builders, helping them develop more permanent, deeply affordable housing.
Okay, great. Short and sweet and to the point. Lori, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, it's good, thank you. So as Greens, we really believe that the part that's missing is the missing middle, which is a gentle densification, allowing fourplexes as of right. We really approve of the smaller home. That is an amazing initiative, and we would agree that modular homes and pre-approved plans that could go out easily, but we need to consider within our neighborhoods that we should be allowing people to build a little bit more densification of the fourplexes and 4 stories, and around transportation hubs, like maybe within Belleville, we could have 6 to 11 story buildings, but obviously not in Picton. Thank you.
And Amanda, same
Sure.
question?
Yeah, so the Ontario NDP has a Homes Ontario plan that we would combine with our new deal for municipalities, which the new deal would see us re-uploading the cost and the responsibility of housing and homelessness programs, affordable housing and homelessness programs back to the province. So we'd be looking to build 300,000 permanently affordable units as part of 1.5 million new homes by 2034. To build the affordable housing, we would be partnering with co-op and non-for-profit housing providers, providing grants, low-cost financing and public land for projects. So Lori and I just toured the Pinecrest housing project out in Picton or in Bloomfield. And they have a really great plan. They just need that provincial partner to come to the table and help with funding. So we would be looking to partner with organizations such as that. We'd be looking to densify, legalizing the fourplexes as of right. But we'd also be including rent control on all units, but at the same time investing in the landlord tenant board to protect renters and landlords to make sure that there isn't extreme backlogs creating havoc and desperation for people.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Dave, same question to you.
Could you repeat it?
Yeah, how does your party plan to address the rising cost of housing, particularly in smaller communities where supply is limited?
Basically, our party plans to eliminate the provincial land transfer tax for nonprofit home builders.
I'm sorry, I think I already asked you this. I'm sorry, Dave, that's my fault. I'm thinking, I already answered that.
Be able to answer it twice to get more time.
It's good. I see, I was listening as soon as you started, I thought, no, I've heard that. So Dave, this is the question for you about infrastructure investment. How will your government prioritize infrastructure investments that support business growth in our region, including transportation, broadband access, and energy reliability.
For infrastructure, our planning plans to scrap development charges on new housing units, and replace it with replace lost municipal revenue. Ontario's fund. Okay, that's good.
That's good, okay. Lori, same question to you. How will your government prioritize infrastructure investments?
Well, we want to create a $2 billion a year climate adaptation fund to specifically target infrastructure that will help us be more resilient in the face of climate changes. But as well, we are very much interested in uploading the cost of transit back to the province and creating electric intercity bus services. Because as we see right now, people from Trenton coming to Belleville, all of these communities, we used to have rail lines that had us all connected. But now everyone needs to get in a car, but not everyone can afford a car. And we're going to increase EV use by a $7,500 rebate if you buy a car less than $75,000, but also for e-bikes, because those are an amazing way to get around and much less expensive, and be $3,000 on an e-bike. We want to put an infrastructure fund in, an annual one, to allow safe walking, cycling, and mobility devices, which I see a lot of out on the roads.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Amanda, same question to you.
Yeah, so NDP is proposing a new deal for municipalities. So this would see us re-upload the cost of, we would be restoring the 50% of provincial funding for municipal transit. And we would be taking on the responsibility of re-uploading for healthcare, housing, and major infrastructure. So smaller communities don't have to spend all of their time and human resources troubleshooting how to obtain funding for their big projects when they don't have that ratepayer base. This way we would be providing consistent and reliable funding that's expected. So municipalities and investors alike and small businesses can feel confident with their investments and not just around election time.
Very good. And Tyler, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We know that infrastructure has been a real priority for the Ford government. We've been working our way through a $200 billion 10-year plan for infrastructure that would see us do $70.5 billion of transit projects across Ontario, as well as build 50 new and redeveloped hospitals, which would be $50 billion. We're looking to build and redevelop 58,000 new long-term care beds by 2028. That's a $6.4 billion investment, because we understand the importance of making sure that we have high quality healthcare and high quality elder care that's close to home. On the broadband access question, this has been a clear priority for us as well. We put up $4 billion to ensure that everyone in Ontario has broadband access by 2025, because we understand that in the modern workplace and modern lives, it's very important that people are able to connect over the internet. It increases productivity exponentially and increases access to information for communities that are maybe more rural or more northern as well. So we'll keep pushing forward on all of those, but there's a clear commitment to infrastructure from our government, including at the local level. Do you have any more time?
No, you're done.
Fantastic.
Great. So I know some of you have kind of touched on this a little bit, but you know, it was a big news story here in the Quinte region recently around our community colleges, and Loyalist College, along with many other Ontario colleges, are facing a funding shortfall and are reducing programs at a time when it is critical training is available for our future workforce. If elected, would your party bring the funding for colleges more in line with what other provinces invest per capita? And would you remove the 10-year-old tuition freeze? And Lori, you have a minute or so.
I won't even need a minute, because I think I covered this already mostly. We will increase funding 20% initially. We will not be, you were asking about the tuition freeze.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to put this onto the backs of students, but we will reverse the cuts to Allsopp so that they can still go to their community colleges. But we feel that just increasing the funding, right now, I think our community colleges are funded at 57% of what is average across Canada. So we really just need to increase the funding to them. And then we won't have to increase the tuition fees to the students.
Okay, Amanda, same question to you.
Like Lori said, we would be restoring funding or restoring the cut funding that the Ford government had done in 2018, but also working with post-secondary institutions to determine what they need to continue to offer diverse learning and working opportunities, because we recognize that local community colleges, especially rural communities such as Bay of Quinte, are real big economic drivers. So it's really important, not just for students to have the pathway and the educational opportunities to be here at home, but also for the actual workforce that exists at Loyalist and how many people have good, solid paying jobs from the college itself.
Milo, to you.
Yes, thank you very much. And it's a critical question because we know how much community colleges mean to our local communities. Not only because people are able to get a high quality education close to home, but also because of the types of programs that are offered there. You think about nurses, PSWs, trades, construction, all of those sorts of things are absolutely critical to our communities. And I think it's important to remember that this is not a problem that we had last year, even under the freeze in funding as well as the freeze in tuition fees, because we wanted to make everything more affordable for students. They were actually producing surpluses last year. They are not now because the funnel of international students has dried up, largely because of comments made by Mark Miller, the federal immigration minister. So I've been in constant contact with Mark Kirkpatrick about the issue. I know what they need in terms of support now and in terms of support that's ongoing. And I'd be happy to get back to Queen's Park and advocate for them to make sure that we can show up our local college and continue to deliver on those great programs that they were able to expand during the time they were producing surpluses.
Great, thank you. And Dave?
Thank you.
What would you repeat the question about?
No, not at all. This was about 11 o'clock last night, so infrastructure investments,
Yeah.
I have more notes, but
Okay,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Read the college fund. I've always been a big supporter of Loyalist College, and I'm a member of the Friends of Loyalist College. Ontario's funding for post-secondary institutions is the lowest of all Canadian provinces and must be increased, restoring the cuts plus adjustments for inflation. It is critical Ontario support our rural college for our healthcare and manufacturing workforce in the Bay of Quinte region. Our party is committed to increasing the funding to our rural community college. I feel the 10-year freeze should be removed, but assistance to lower income students should be increased to offset any increases for them. For example, our plan to eliminate interest on OSAP loans and delay debt repayment until young graduates make at least $50,000 per year.
And Amanda, were you indicating you had a read?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah, so just to rebut the fact that this was not an issue a year ago, I know back in the fall during the by-election, I had referenced the Blue Ribbon report that was done earlier that year that said there was a $1.3 billion shortfall and a susceptibility for the post-secondary education sector as a whole. So we know the over-reliance that has happened province-wide on international students, but this was flagged. So the government was aware that if that source of income was cut off, then we would be in this crisis, and this crisis is now here. And just as an MPP, I wouldn't have to go and advocate for Loyalist College because our NDP is already committed to providing that funding that is needed critically in the immediate, and then working together in the future to make sure they have what they need.
Okay, we're now going to go into one last rapid fire section where it's going to be one question, one candidate, 1 minute. How does that sound? We'll try and get these in. So Tyler, the first one's gonna go to you. What is your stance on renewable energy development in Ontario, and how will you ensure businesses have access to affordable and reliable energy?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we're committed through our new Affordable Energy Act to make sure that we have affordable, reliable power for everybody in Ontario, including businesses as well. We've just entered into the largest procurement process in Ontario's history, and we are technologically agnostic. As long as it's affordable and reliable, we're interested. So whether that's wind, solar, biomass, nuclear, there's a whole natural gas. There's an array of options that are available to us, and we'll pursue every option that we can to make sure that we deliver on affordable energy. Previous governments had foisted some of these projects on municipalities that were unwilling hosts. We will never do that. We'll always communicate and consult with our municipal partners and make sure that the rates that we're paying are in line with market rates and not some of the exorbitant rates that we have seen in the past.
Okay, next question, Lori, yours is about climate and regulations. How do you balance environmental sustainability with economic development? And will your party introduce any new regulations that businesses should prepare for?
Thank you. I don't think it's anything that businesses need to prepare for, except that we will be putting and funneling money into projects that will be supporting people to live in a more carbon neutral way. I don't believe that anything that we have planned, which is to electrify as much as we can, but use electrical sources other than methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. So our hope is to reduce our subsistence on natural gas or methane, and instead go to more green energy projects and also pay to have more microgridding and allowing businesses and farms and areas like that to enter into contracts with the energy system, have solar panels on their roofs and in their fields, and bring that power back into the grid.
Very good. Dave, the next question is for you. It's about nonpartisan collaboration. How will you work with opposing parties to ensure progress on key issues rather than political gridlock?
What question is that? Oh,
It's under leadership and political accountability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I've been a member of the local Chamber of Commerce here
You have, yes.
for over 40 years. And I believe the importance of public consultation. I plan representing all the people of the riding just as I have as a Quinte West councillor.
Okay. And last question is to you, Amanda. It's around public consultation. How will your party engage with businesses and community stakeholders to ensure their voices are heard in policymaking?
Yeah, so I mean, our party is obviously very invested in making sure we have all voices at the table. For me personally, this is something that I've already engaged in doing, and I would love to continue as your MPP. So, for example, I've reached out to different stakeholder groups that we haven't necessarily had a lot of contact with in the past. So, our agriculture industry leaders, making sure that they have voices at the table. I had a really interesting conversation with one of our local ag leaders, and he made a really interesting statement that he said, and this is a little bit off topic, but I feel like this is the type of voice that we need to make sure we're including when we're talking about policy development. With farming and protecting farmland, we need to make sure that not only we protect farmland, but the farmer's ability to farm the land. So making sure that all perspectives are heard at the table, because sometimes when we're making policy, it might have wide sweeping effects on big parts of our economy, like our agricultural partners. And we want to make sure that those voices are heard. So I know with our small business, medium business, it's the same thing, where sometimes a policy might seem benign, but we need to make sure that we have those voices at the table so that we can plan for and account for those unforeseen consequences of certain policies.
Good. Okay, so we have 3 questions left. I'm gonna try if we can just do like maybe almost a little 30-second, 45-second response. Well, maybe you might be able to squeeze them in.
Short answer from policy.
And so Amanda, this one's gonna go to you first, okay? So the Minister of Natural Resources has placed the 3rd freeze on Conservation Authority regulations and planning freeze, which has caused an increase to municipal levies to cover the shortfall. The freeze is seen as downloading to municipalities. Would your government, if elected, remove the freeze on Conservation Authority fees? And would you consider increasing the provincial transfer payments to conservation authorities?
So we know that conservation authorities, their fees are on a cost recovery model, so they're not turning a profit. So freezing them really is harmful to them to being able to do their jobs. So the NDP would commit, or we have committed to increasing payments and restoring not only the money, but their powers to protect people, property, and the environment.
Tyler, you're next.
Yes, thank you very much, and certainly we appreciate the importance of the natural world around us. We're sitting in Quinte West, which is a natural wonder,
Yeah.
and this area really is renowned for its beauty and its wilderness. And this government has been committed to conservation. We've included 420,000 new acres of conserved and protected land since 2020. And we'll continue to push forward on that front. And I'd be happy to bring any of these concerns relative to conservation authorities and their funding to my caucus colleagues and advocate on their behalf.
Dave? Same question.
Thank you. The freezing of the Conservation Authority regulations and planning fees is effectively downloading costs to municipalities as they are required to make up the shortfall. The funding to conservation authorities has also not changed in years. The Conservation Authority, like municipalities, is facing ever-increasing costs, and the freeze on their payments should be lifted. I would consider increasing the provincial transfer payments to make up for this erosion of purchasing power that resulted from the freezes. I believe Ford took most of the power away from the conservation authorities.
And Lori?
I'll be pretty quick because you guys have all said a lot. I have actually protested outside the Conservation Authority to try to restore funding to it through several of Premier Ford's bills. I won't blame you for those personally, Tyler.
Well, I just got.
I know. But we would definitely reinstate and increase the funding. They provide such an important service. And as a Quinte Field naturalist, we talk to our conservation authorities all the time about how to best protect some of the natural areas around there. So
Very good. This one is on electoral reform, and I'm going to actually go to Tyler next on this one. Our first past the post election system allows a party to win a majority of seats with just over 40% of the popular vote. If you are elected, will you work to implement electoral reforms so that the 60% of us who voted for another party are represented?
Well, thank you. I know this is a question that has come up before. I believe it was part of the 2015 campaign of Justin Trudeau, and they commissioned a committee to take a look at it. The results were that they could not come to a consensus on what that system would be or how that would look, and that's why that policy didn't proceed any further. So I'd have to take a look at the specific proposal around what is, how that would work and what we would do about it. But at this point, that's not a part of our platform. And it's not something that I've been hearing at the doors, but I'm always open to have a conversation about any sort of political reform with anybody.
Okay, great. Dave, on to you next.
Electoral reform, it needs support to do this, and in the federal government, it does not have support to do this. I would be open to electoral reform and to any other good ideas brought forward. We all need to work together for the benefit of the taxpayer. And I have been doing this on Quinte West Council already.
Okay, and Lori?
well, electoral reform, I have been a member of Fair Vote Canada for quite some time. That committee actually did come up with a recommendation. It just wasn't one that Justin Trudeau wanted, which was proportional representation. But as Ontario Greens, we have committed to a citizens' assembly on this very issue, to create a citizens' assembly and be bound by their findings. So it won't be that they come up with something and we decide we don't like it. We will allow the citizens of Ontario to decide, and we will also allow ranked ballot voting to come back into municipalities that choose that form of electoral.
Great, and Amanda, same question to you.
Like Lori, the NDP would be open to exploring mixed member proportional voting system that would be designed by an independent group of citizens and supported by a panel of experts and all of the Ontario major parties.
Okay, our last question is around art and culture. Nice way to end the afternoon. So Ontario's music. Sorry, Dave.
I just feel this is so important to our area. Can we have the time limit extended on this question?
On the art and culture? Yeah, so we'll go back to our regular 2 minute. Okay. Art and culture. So Ontario's museums and cultural institutions play a vital role in education, tourism, and community engagement. Yet many struggle with chronic underfunding and rely on grants that are either too competitive or insufficient. What is your party's plan to provide stable, long-term funding to museums and cultural organizations to ensure they can continue serving their communities effectively? And Lori, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, that was a lot.
Yeah.
We as Greens commit to increasing the funding through, I can't remember the name of the fund now that is currently there. I didn't realize that it was hard and very competitive to access that fund, but I do think that as I have a number of friends who are involved in Quinte Arts Council, and I go to many of the different music venues around the city. It really adds joy to your life and is so important. And it really doesn't take a lot of money for arts and culture to make a big difference. But we definitely are very supportive, and we would continue to fund at a higher level our local arts communities.
Amanda, same question to you.
Sure. So I just have to start out by giving a big shout out to Deanna and Stacy at the Quinte Museum of Natural History. I went and toured that, I mean, I've been there a number of times with my family, but they invited me on a tour just last week to kind of show me what they've been up to there and some of the challenges that they're facing. They have some exciting partnerships with the ROM and other international museums. They also have a partnership with the Canadian Cattle Association called the Guardians of the Grasslands. So they've received funding through these types of streams, but the reality is it was pretty dire for that museum, not even a year ago, where they almost faced closing their doors because the funding just had dried up. So they're really looking for a reliable funding partner in the provincial government, and we as NDP would become that reliable funding partner. We've already committed to reopening the Science Center, so we know we truly value the museums and cultural institutions and what they play, the roles they play in our economy. So locally, we have this opportunity for the Quinte Museum of Natural History to really help them take that next step to become a province-wide and maybe even national gem, so to speak. And if they can, that museum could be or will be a big economic driver here in Quinte West, and a invaluable resource for our students and our community members as a whole. So we know arts and culture is super important to mental health, but also the economy, and just having enlightened and diverse citizens that can explore and learn about our past and our future.
And again, as the current chair of the Quinte Museum of Natural History, I'm really happy to hear your response and definitely be in touch. That's great. Actually, time to you next.
Sure, well, thank you very much. And arts and culture has always been something that's been very close to my heart. My brother is an artist, my mother is an artist, and I've been on the record at Belleville City Council for advocating to increase the Quinte Arts Council funding every single year that I was in office. In some of those tighter years, we didn't get it, but we were successful a couple of times. I think it's so important that we support arts and culture in our community, particularly because we know it is a significant economic driver outside of, the mental health aspects and the, creative expression aspects. When we talk about tourism, it's one of the main drivers. I was also a member of the Glenmore National Historic Site Committee and have taken my kids to the Natural History Museum here in Quinte West a number of times. And so we know it's also great for families, for education purposes, and I'll always stand up and be a strong voice in support of the arts.
Okay, wonderful. And Dave, same question to
Don't
you.
start the timer yet, because I've got a question for Suzanne.
Okay,
Since she gave us extra time for this question, do we still get to do closing remarks?
yes. Oh, good. It's good. I'm gonna squeeze it all
You
in.
can start now.
Yeah.
The Bay of Quinte region is rich in arts and culture and is a premier geographical location for arts, culture, travel, and tourism. I've always supported and recognized the importance of arts and culture in our region. I will continue to advocate for consistent funding for this vital segment of our local economy. Arts and culture preserves history, provides education, supports local artisans, and is a great tourist attraction generating income for our area. We need to vote in favor of a budgetary increase for the Ontario Arts Council. These organizations need income stability in order to operate efficiently. If elected, I will meet with the related stakeholders, have dialogue to determine their full needs, and listen to proposals to come up with potential solutions. I feel it is worth reviewing the basic income guarantee program again for individuals so local artisans can have income stability to continue working in the field. I was disappointed with Fort's decision on the snap closure of the Ontario Science Centre without any reasonable excuse. The $189 million spent on this election would have been enough to repair the dam.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to all of the candidates for taking the time to research and provide such great answers, such clarity around some of the issues. I want to thank all of you for actually putting your names forward and giving the electorate here in the Bay of Quinte riding such great choice, and so we are now going to go into closing remarks. We're going to go in the reverse, and you have up to 2 minutes. Dave, we're going to start with you.
Thank you. Thank you again for hosting the meeting tonight and to everyone who attended online. As your Liberal provincial representative, I will work hard and in collaboration with all levels of government. We will reset Queen's Park relationships with rural Ontario by establishing reliable funding and collaborative, respectful relationships with municipalities. Doug Ford has shown a clear inability to effectively manage our taxpayer dollars. He and his Conservative colleagues are not serving the people of Ontario, they are serving their own interests. This snap election is unnecessary and premature expense. It's costing Ontario taxpayers $189 million. Ford has 16 months left in his mandate. He should be focusing on these issues like fighting the Trump tariffs, not abandoning the people of Ontario. Many people are not happy with the Ford $200 election giveaway, which cost Ontario taxpayers $3 billion. When it could have been better used for additional funding for healthcare or educational programs. We have a plan to cut your taxes, and Ontario Liberal government will provide real long-term financial relief for the people of Ontario. We have a plan to cut your taxes, lower the cost of housing, eliminate HST and hydro heating, make education more affordable, ensure everyone in Ontario has a family doctor. I care about our community and know the policies of this Liberal government and will make a difference for everyone. I respectfully ask for your support in this election on February 27th. Let's do this together. Vote David O'Neill, and I took out the comment.
Talia, now to you for your closing
There we go,
comments.
bipartisan collaboration happening already.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone tuning in today, as well as the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. We know it is so important to our local democracy that events like these occur, that people have the opportunity to hear from the candidates, hear their platforms, and see who is really invested in making sure that this community continues to thrive and grow. You know, we face unprecedented times in Ontario due to the threats of the tariff war from Donald Trump. But also we know that over the next 4 years, the only thing that will be predictable is unpredictability. That's why we're running to secure a strong 4-year mandate to make sure that we have the right team in place under the leadership of Premier Ford to make sure that we are ready for everything and anything that comes our way. On February 27th, I'm asking for your vote to send me back to Queen's Park to be your strong voice to continue to get it done for the Bay of Quinte and to protect Ontario. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Tyler. Amanda, to you.
Thank you. So while we can disagree or agree that this election was unnecessary and costly, it has given us a really great opportunity here in Bay of Quinte and across the province of Ontario to change course a 1.5 years early, to have better sooner. I want to hear your voices as your MPP and bring them to Queen's Park so we can see our community and our solutions reflected in policy making in Toronto. We are in unprecedented times and it will be unpredictable. So this week it's tariffs, next week it could be a climate emergency. We need to have a predictable provincial government, one that we can rely on, one that can be relied upon by our municipal partners, one that will be a good partner to our federal counterparts. And a government that uses responsible stewardship of tax dollars. So we have the opportunity to elect a leader in Mark Stiles, who has a collaborative, forward-looking vision for the future, where we can have communities where people can access safe, affordable housing, access to reliable and comprehensive healthcare, help with the cost of living, and schools that set our kids up for success. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in here in Bay of Quinte, vote Amanda Robertson on February 27th. And again, I will plug that it is also my birthday. So it would be extra special for me, but I really do want the best for our community. And I really look forward to the opportunity to representing all of you.
And Lori, you're going to get the last word today.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. Every argument should end with Lori. So my name's Lori Borthwick, and I'm running to be the MPP for the Bay of Quinte riding. I have worked for over 30 years in healthcare as a frontline healthcare worker. And over those many, many years of serving the public, I have really come to have a real understanding of the issues that people are worried about. And so as a healthcare worker, I've probably met you and I've probably done some work with you on your health, and I care about your needs. But also as a mother and grandmother, I'm very concerned about pollution levels, greenhouse gases, and climate change. As a CARP member, and unfortunately a CARP member because I'm that old, 60, I understand the needs of seniors and how they're struggling to stay in their housing on fixed incomes under these conditions. And as a Quinte Field naturalist and a Prince Edward County Field naturalist and a South Shore Joint Initiative member, I understand how important our natural heritage areas are. I cannot promise to put liquor in every corner store, especially the on-roads, which seem like a great idea. But I can promise to work on trying to make sure that everybody has housing that fits their needs by building not sprawl and not tall, but the missing middle housing. And I can promise that we're going to work on health care with a focus on access to primary care, because you can't access the healthcare system if you can't get to a nurse practitioner or a doctor for any kind of lab work, testing, and that sort of thing. And plans to support true affordability by taking gouging and profit taking out of the system. So on February 27th, even though it's not my birthday, you can still vote for Lori Borthwick. We think it's time to vote green.
Thank you. As the CEO here at the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce, I do want to take a moment to thank my team that are working behind the scenes to make this all go smoothly. I wanted to just thank you guys once again for taking the time out. You know, I know you've got a busy 2 weeks left in this campaign. I think we're at just past the halfway point. So you know, stay safe, and thank you once again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Just add a ton of sarcasm on it.